conversations about yesterday's animations. Saturday morning cartoon fare.
Days Past ToonCast!
Played by
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Nickelodeon, Thundercats, Ghostbusters,
Transformers.
DuckTales.
Days Past ToonCast!
It's not a particularly deep show.
That's right. So you will like us.
Yeah!
I dealt with your asses for too long!
You turn me evil.
No, you were already that way. Don't blame me.
Days Past ToonCast!
Hello and welcome to the Days Past ToonCast. My name is Will.
My name is Travis.
And on this podcast, we have adult conversations
About yesterday's animations.
Travis, I wanna shoot some shit with you here, but I won't. We don't got time. We are covering a cartoon today that is known the world around.
Pop culture. Yes, sir.
Oh, this is way pop culture. In fact, it's almost more pop culture than it is cartoon at this point.
You're very right.
And in covering it, we're gonna touch on a little bit of everything. Organized crime, dinosaurs,
Yeah.
aliens, comedy, family, the modern Stone Age
Yeah.
family. Today we're covering the only cartoon that guarantees you a Yabba-Dabba-Do time. Legally, it is the only one that can do that. I like to say that we're going to show you a Yabba-Dabba-Do time today, but can't do that.
Copywritten.
Of course, you know that we are talking about the Flintstones.
Flintstones, meet the Flintstones, they're the modern Stone Age family.
Before The Simpsons, before The Family Guy, before The Bob's Burgers, this, The Flintstones, was the first animated primetime sitcom. This showed for adults. Like it was probably between Andy Griffith and some other bullshit.
Yeah. The first tune to really get in that primetime slot.
It is part of our cultural heritage, but when is the last time that you saw a Flintstones cartoon aside from watching it for this episode?
A long time.
They are not known for being cartoons at this point.
Right.
That's a secondary part of their existence.
They're known as ice cream and
Oh man, the push-up pops. I forgot. I forgot. That was my favorite sick day thing.
orange push-up pop.
The
Yeah.
orange and the cherry were the ones you wanted. The grapes were the leftovers.
Right,
You
yep.
didn't want the grapes until you were done with the other ones.
The orange. You wanted the orange, baby.
Yeah.
Give me the orange.
A Yabba-Dabba-Do! Yeah, Flintstone push-ups, that's what's cool!
Push-ups, Flintstone push-ups.
A modern Stone Age sherbet treat! A taste right out of history!
Push-ups!
This is a 6.
A foodie flavor.
Their greatest legacy may be cereal
Yes.
and children's vitamins. I forget. When I say Fruity Pebbles, if I say because there are things that just taste kind of like Fruity Pebbles out there in the world.
Right.
It's one of the flavors. There's salty, fatty, sugary,
And then Fruity Pebbles.
Fruity Pebbly.
Yes.
When I say Fruity Pebbles, I never think of the Flintstones.
Not at all.
They used to
Nope.
use them to advertise them, and it's named after a character on the show, but it's just a thing you get at the store. It's just like Cheerios.
Yep, it's a thing. It's yeah, it grew its own fame.
Watch me trick Fred out of his Fruity Pebbles.
Barney, my pebbles! Post Fruity Pebbles cereal, part of this complete breakfast.
And then, of course, the Flintstones Kids Vitamins.
Yes, sir.
I didn't take them as a kid. I'm not good about making that a habit, taking vitamins, and I really should because my eating habits are post-apocalyptic.
Cockroach-esque.
Cockroaches survive on what I eat.
Yep.
So I have gummy vitamins, and they've been there for a year now, and I've eaten 5 of them or something because I just don't think of it.
You're like, I have rickets now.
Yes.
This world takes a little growing into, and 10 million kids are getting all the vitamins they need to help them grow with Flintstones.
We are Flintstones kids.
What's a Flintstone taste like?
Chalky cherries
Yeah,
and
right.
lemon flavoring.
Flintstones, America's favorite.
This ad campaign with that's from about 1990 there.
Shout out.
And I think they ran that for a while in the 90s. So you and I grew up seeing these commercials, hearing that song.
Yep.
A few things looking back on it, because I was like, oh, Flintstones vitamins, everybody, that's a part of your breakfast for some people.
Fruity Pebbles and a vitamin.
Exactly.
Yeah.
the commercials are always children doing things that they shouldn't be doing. Like on the one that we're watching, it's two kids trying to get up high enough to play a piano, which they're not tall enough, so you don't get to play the piano. Yeah. And they're saying 10 million strong and growing, as if it is a threat of we're brainwashing your children through palatable vitamins because they're the only vitamins that any kid wanted to eat. And no other animated character in pop culture tastes as good as a chalkified Flintstone.
Right? Heavy chalk.
I certainly don't think of it as a cartoon anymore. Like we're saying.
Not at all.
Seems like most people aren't thinking of watching a cartoon with the Flintstones. The setup for it, the concept of it, I mean, we all know it's cavemen, it's prehistory.
Wilma, Betty. Barney, yeah, all the goodness.
At its heart, it is really just, you take a classic 60s sitcom. So you have two families that live next door to each other.
Yep.
That's always what it is.
Yes.
You have got the Flintstones. You have got Fred, the patriarch, really the main character of the show, Fred Flintstone. And he's not brusque. He is just a 60s man, I guess. A 60s father figure.
Kind of modeled after the Jackie Gleason Honeymooners, right?
Very much so.
Yes.
So that was the most popular show on the air at the time.
It still is. It's still prime time.
In your household.
Yes.
Yeah. No, it hasn't been canceled at all for many threats of violence towards the wife on the show.
Right.
Yeah, it was enough based on that Jackie Gleason looked into suing them to have it taken off the air.
Rightfully so.
And his lawyers said, do you really want to be the guy? You can do this, but do you really want to be the guy to kill Fred Flintstone? And he was smart. He said, you know what? I'll take my suitcase and leave.
Give me some more money and I'm good.
Fred Flintstone, he's kind of likably, sweetly he's not that smart.
He was Homer Simpson before Homer Simpson.
And this is the legacy of sitcoms. This is every male. I mean, I have a lot to say about that I'm going to hold on to some of it.
Okay.
Because I don't want you to eat the whole meal and get sick.
Yeah. Thank you.
But yeah, he is very much in the mold of large doofus man married to attractive woman who puts up with him. This standard of man and wife that we have had for so long.
Yeah.
Yes, Wilma is his wife.
She's cartoon beautiful. I would think so.
And the neighbor Betty.
Yes.
It's funny how we all have just decided that these simple drawings are attractive women.
Yeah, they're cartoon beautiful for sure.
Barney Rubble and Betty Rubble are the family next door, and Fred and Barney work together down at the
Rock Quarry.
Yes. Everything on this show is either rock, stone,
rock, or
crag, rock. I mean, it's not even wordplay a lot of the time. It is just
it's like really bad Mad Libs.
Yes. I swear they must have had a well-worn geology book just at the ready on the table. That's just like, what is lava? But you've got these two families. The guys get into hijinks usually. They're basically the children of the show.
Heavy hijinks.
And the ladies are homemakers. And they play mom to the boys who get into trouble.
Yes.
And that's it. That is a classic sitcom that describes many, many sitcoms.
It does.
Then what you do is you slap a coat of caveman on everything. The fashion is animal print moo-moos. Architecture becomes stone slab houses. Transportation is wooden cars that you drive with your feet. They have all of the amenities of 1960s middle America.
Yep.
And they still don't have shoes somehow. Everybody's barefoot running around in a car.
Calluses the size of Texas on everyone.
Corns out the wazoo. So that's fun. It's so blatantly disrespectful to the idea of history and science. You have to respect it. But now, what I want to do, I want to 86 the technology and substitute dinosaurs. Anything that is not made out of a rock that is the equivalent of 60s technology, it's a dinosaur.
Yeah.
Dinosaur for your shower. Dinosaur how you punch in at work.
For your vacuum.
Yes, for your computer, for your phone. If we were in Flintstones world right now, we would listen to podcasts on tiny dinosaurs that could imitate Joe Rogan and NPR, regaling you with stories. The dinosaurs are basically service animals. And when I say service, I mean they're in the service industry. They're not they're not even considered citizens of course they're not. They're animals, right?
Yeah.
Except some of them talk. Maybe only to the camera. There's a lot of talking to the camera.
A lot of breaking that fourth wall.
Yeah. All of the dinosaurs who work as service animals, I guess. Yes. They are all so world weary. They always turn to the camera and say, it's a living, or this again. Like in the episode we watched, there was a turtle, which is not even, I guess it's technically a dinosaur because they haven't updated turtles in a billion years.
They're the first. That's good. They're the first dinosaurs, man.
I guess. I mean, they're the same as they ever were.
Gators. Yeah, you're right.
But they used one of those in an episode that we watched where it was a wind-up turtle. All it is a turtle with a little wind-up key strapped to its back. And when they do it so that it'll be a toy, he just looks at the camera and says,
Oh boy, here we go again. Well, as long as it makes the kids happy.
Are turtles a young man's game? Would you put them as a young man's game, or is that slightly
No, I feel
out?
like they're an old man's game. But just the most fun is just to sit down and commune with a big old turtle. And those giant tortoises just seem like you could just sit with them and glean so much wisdom from being in their presence.
Yep.
No, dinosaurs are a young man's game.
Okay,
they're
you're
always
right.
changing.
You're right.
Yes.
I didn't know if
yes, that's our official
turtles were in
stance.
there. Okay.
Turtles, despite being basically unchanged for all of eternity, they're not dinosaurs to me, and therefore old man's game. And it's the attitude of each of these animals. It's always like they're the ones that shower you, like they're just holding water in their stomach, waiting for you to sit under them spewing it out.
Right.
But the attitude, it's like all of them had dreams. Like they had a football scholarship that they lost when they got injured, and now they're stuck punching the clock for the rest of their lives. And that's the attitude they all have. And it's just like, I'm the dinosaur that the Flintstones shit in every day. Well, it's a living. As far as when I was a kid watching the show, I liked the idea of it, but it always seemed a little boring. Especially,
100%.
It started off in black and white.
Yeah.
And those, it's just an automatic, I don't think so. I don't know. As a kid,
Did you catch the black and white ones?
I mean, they would show them all on reruns.
I never caught those.
They weren't my speed.
They weren't sought
I will
after.
say. Yeah. Because whenever I see black and white cartoons as a kid, it looked like it belonged on TMC or on Nick at Night after Green Acres, and that's just shit.
Green Acres was like, you got to turn the TV off
It's
immediately.
time to go to bed.
Yeah. Or Mama's Family. I'm like, oh yeah, it's bedtime.
Yeah, it's
bedtime
time.
now.
I'm like, I now need to put myself to sleep. I have gone too far. And just in general, the show just wasn't all the madcap fun that I wanted it to be as a kid. And I think it's because it's not all that cartoony, despite all the shit that we just said, talking dinosaurs and stone cars. It's not especially cartoony because we've joked about recently how He-Man seems like a sitcom.
Yeah.
But this is 100% designed to be a sitcom.
You're right.
It is meant to just be a sitcom, and they happen to be cavemen.
Like you said, they molded sitcoms after this was created. You know what I mean?
Contributed.
It did.
Hanna-Barbera, the famous cartoon studio, of course, is behind the Flintstones. It's one of their cornerstones.
Yes. Oh, damn it, boy. Or a milestone.
They were looking in, I guess, the late 50s. It's crazy that it was going on that early. I thought Top Cat and Huckleberry Hound were later, but they had been doing that kind of cartoon.
Yeah.
And they were getting branded a kids content only company, which I know that animation is for anything, but how bad were they? Like edgy dudes, Hanna and Barbera, that they really wanted to break out of the ghetto of we make kids cartoons that are very popular,
right?
Like they had a ton of hits, but they were interested in getting that part of the audience that they didn't have.
Yeah.
The adults. They decided to do a sitcom, and the ideas that they had, like they just knew they wanted a sitcom, and they wanted it to be, I guess, to justify why it's animated, to make it a little wacky. So they had some other ideas besides cavemen that they were going to want to try out. They considered hillbillies, sure, ancient Romans, the ever popular setting.
You're right. Yeah.
Pilgrims and Native Americans.
Well, Pilgrims do have Plymouth Rock. Sorry.
You're a gem.
Yeah, thank you.
Thankfully, they did, before they landed on the Stone Age, they went through those. Some of those would have been, we would now be looking at them in the Disney vault if they were owned by Disney. Like they would be sealed away in the Hanna-Barbera vault as we never did that. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Look over here.
Yeah, those files are sealed. It is like you said, it is based largely on the Honeymooners. Again, two families, man and wife. I mean, I've never seen Fred threaten to hit Wilma.
No.
So that they've evolved more past that point. But
he did that behind the scenes.
Maybe so. So it was truly a sitcom down to a canned laugh track, like sitcoms at the time, which some of them filmed in front of live studio audiences. They didn't film this. They didn't animate this over a course of months in front of a live studio audience.
In front of a live studio audience.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? Everyone's sleeping.
The best you could do is like go in front of a live studio audience and get someone with a lot of charisma to either act out or just tell them the plot. And be like, what do you think is funny? What about this? Or just make some jokes and then capture the laughter. It's not completely off from what they did. And it's a complicated story that is bigger than what is our scope right now.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to do it due diligence. All I'm going to say is that the laughs came from a guy named Charles Douglas. He invented what they ended up calling a laugh box, which was a playable, it was almost like an organ, a transportable organ that had tape loops of audience reactions that he could play kind of like a keyboard and mix different reactions together so that it wouldn't just be the sudden start and stop.
Man, that's crazy.
And I believe that was used to make the laughter on the Flintstones.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, now you could just walk around with your iPhone, like with the soundboard app, and just play laughter to after everything you say, which is, I'm considering. Once Hanna-Barbera landed on cavemen, not Native Americans, I hope that wasn't like they weren't in contention for this or this.
Right.
I was 1959. They were pitching in 1959 for 2 months, like heavy. They were really, again, what bit them on the ass if they felt they had to be taken seriously in a different way.
Right.
And therefore made the Flintstones.
Yeah.
But they had no bites until they reached a then young company, a then young network called ABC.
This is ABC, the American Broadcasting Company.
Which, to my mind now, is only below CBS as far as fuddy-duddy territory.
Yes.
Like, it goes, CBS is for 80-year-olds. ABC is for 60-year-olds.
Yep.
Then NBC is for a large swath of people. And then Fox, I don't know anymore.
It's for assholes.
I guess it's for assholes and kids. Kids are assholes.
Yes, they are.
ABC, they were it is like what happened with Fox and The Simpsons. When The Simpsons was being pitched to Fox, they were a new network at the time.
Yeah.
And they took on The Simpsons partly because of edginess and partly just to have anything that was different and just programming. You got to have shit on the air. And it was similar here. ABC was a young network and they wanted to take a risk. They were willing to take a risk on the Flintstones. And it worked out. Because it was super popular. The show was very well received. The first 2 seasons, at least one of them, maybe both of them were in black and white. They didn't even have the famous Flintstones theme song that we all know.
Yes.
That everybody can sing. They actually just had a orchestral score. It was so much more a normal sitcom even than it became. And it never got, well, it did eventually get a little wacky, but we'll get to that in a second. It never just entered into action adventure territory or My Little Pony territory.
Right.
It was popular enough and it was going to be seen by enough eyes that ABC got the show sponsored very early on.
The Flintstones, brought to you by Winston, America's best-selling, best-tasting filter cigarette.
Winston tastes good, like a cigarette should.
So this is back at a time when, if a show was sponsored, the people who were on the show would actually talk to you, the viewer.
Yeah.
It is kind of like how podcasts are now, where you do your own ads. And they got the Flintstones, the cartoon characters, to smoke on screen and address the audience about how they're in flavor country and how there's 20 cigarettes in a pack. Can you believe it?
Winston is the one filter cigarette that delivers flavor 20 times a pack. Filter blend makes the big taste difference, and only Winston has it up front where it counts. Here, ahead of the pure white filter.
And the one that we watched, they're watching their wives mow the lawn and do laundry, and they escape because they don't want to see them do work. They feel bad.
You want to take a nap?
It's just as 1960 as you get.
Wow.
Winston tastes good like a cigarette should.
The goal of a sitcom, I mean, really, of any TV show, is to run as long as humanly possible.
Yeah.
As long as they will let you stay on the air, you want to run that shit into the ground. But specifically a sitcom, unlike, I don't know, a Breaking Bad, is to stay on as long as possible without ever changing, but also seeming like it's changed enough that you're not just seeing the same episode every single time.
Yeah, that you're keeping some sort of interest.
It's the illusion of change without change.
Yeah, you nailed it.
At some point, Most of them get it wrong. Sooner or later, I mean, maybe a lot of them just suck.
Yeah.
If they run for long enough, but there is a term for when they get it wrong.
Yes.
When a TV show expires and isn't taken off the shelf.
Uh-huh.
The term is jump the shark. That, of course, comes from a infamous episode of Happy Days, where the Fonz enters a contest, a water skiing contest, and has to jump over at least a shark. I thought it might be a few. Seems like that's not that big a deal, but
one shark. I got that.
Easy for me to say. I'm so afraid of sharks. I would never go near. I wouldn't be there. I wouldn't even be at the beach.
You're like Ann Oceans.
Yes, and that for some is where the credibility of the show, however much it had before that, went out the door. Like it lost itself along the way. And so that became the term. If a show has jumped the shark, it means that they're out of ideas, that it's lost the idea of its original premise. Sometimes it's that they're continuing past someone important leaving, whether it's Steve Carell on The Office or behind the scenes producer like Dan Harmon leaving Community or being fired from Community. For some, it's like you should have stopped.
Yep.
Basically, the show is low on gas, and higher-ups are saying they can make it a few more exits before pulling over.
Yep.
And at best, you're going to stall out on the highway, and at worst, the car's a ball of flame and somebody's calling for the jaws of life. That is how it can end when you jump the shark and you don't stop the train.
So jump the shark is bad, right?
It's bad.
It's bad, right?
It's very bad. And the Flintstones was on for 6 seasons. 60 to 66. That's enough time to fuck it up. Yeah, you don't need long.
Not at all.
And I would say that if you and I probably as viewers, they never really fucked it up.
No.
If someone was like a big Flintstone head, a Yabba-Dabba-Dork, then they might say, oh, well, those first 2 seasons were hard-hitting, sitcom, edgy comedy.
Gold.
And then once they started having babies and shit, and the show became a fucking kids show, that's when they lost it.
I like the smoking cigarettes, Flintstones.
If they're smoking, they're poking, and that's how I like my Flintstones. But I mean, for you and I would say that would probably be the episodes where we would have, as kids, gotten engaged, if at all. In season 3, Wilma and Fred did not have a kid, nor did Barney and Betty. Until season 3, Wilma gets pregnant, and these two, at the time, Lucy and Desi were having to sleep in different beds. Fred and Wilma were sleeping in the same stone bed. So they were getting busy.
Oh, man.
Because the way cavemen do it.
Cavemen have no couth. They're uncouth.
They hadn't even invented couth yet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Evolutionarily, couth wasn't even on the horizon.
Oh, you're right.
They get pregnant and they have a very adorable little...
rock. They have a rock.
Well, they name her Pebbles.
Oh, yeah.
So close enough. I guess because she's like a pebble. If they're a rock, then she's a little pebble.
That's cute.
We'll chip off the pebble.
That's cute.
She is a very adorable, like the design, the little ponytail on top.
Yeah.
She's an adorable little baby girl with red hair. And the namesake of Fruity Pebbles.
Good cereal.
So I guess next season 4, Barney and Betty are jealous and say, I don't know if that's true, but it stands to reason that Betty maybe...
No, it's a real thing.
One of them starts needling the other about, well, why are they having kids and we're not?
Are you not man enough?
Well, somebody was to blame, genetically, I guess, because they couldn't get pregnant. They actually dealt, to whatever extent they would have in 1964, with infertility on the Flintstones. I assume they don't say like, well, we've been having sex every night and she's ovulating. I don't think they're talking about that. But they tried, they could not, and therefore they adopted a little white-haired boy named Bam Bam.
Bam Bam.
Have you seen these images of extremely fit kids?
Oh, yeah.
Kids that are 2 feet tall and just muscled up.
Yes.
It's inappropriate.
It is.
Okay. That's Bam Bam. He's not drawn that way so much, but the kid, in the episode that we watched, he is just slamming power cleans, like with a full set of dumbbells. And he always, like when he shakes somebody's hand or he picks up Barney all the time, just slams him into the ground, not knowing his own strength. If you're going to have a strong kid, you got to get them under emotional control.
Oh, for sure.
If your kid can both overpower you and emotionally control you, you have lost the parenting game.
You're right.
With the introduction of these little babies, the show became more kid-oriented. I guess. I mean, just the presence of children doesn't necessarily have to mean that, but that's the story. It skewed the audience young. They lost some of the adults that had been watching.
The Flintstone heads.
The Yabba-Dabba-Dorks.
Yeah.
So their answer to get people back in season 6 was to introduce an alien genie.
Yep.
In the metaphor I used earlier, the car is on fire. You need to pull over and call the authorities. The car's on fire.
Call the Jetsons.
Yes.
Have them help you out.
Yes. They introduce an alien in the last season for 11 episodes. A lot of shows, sitcoms, they will over time introduce either shitty or weird elements that you get used to.
Yep.
It's the boiling a frog approach, where it's like if you turn up the heat on us over time, we won't notice that the show's gone bad. And then we'll find ourselves defending a really shitty show that we're still attached to.
Walking Dead. I get it.
For you, yeah. I was off of that train a long time ago.
Baby, I'm still on that.
You can't quit it.
I can't quit it.
Sometimes they do that. They will just give it to you over. They're taking the Black Widow approach. They put a little bit of poison in your meal every night, or a little bit of ground up glass until you're used to it. Sometimes they just dump a tiny green spaceman in your lap and say, this is the show now. This is the shit sandwich you ordered, right?
I wish an alien would pop up on The Walking Dead. I wished for this.
Honestly, what they did, I wish they would do on any show that has expired. Because it is the funniest choice that they could make.
Just get stupid with it.
Yes. The fella's name, the Great Gazoo. Not kazoo.
Yeah.
Sounds like that.
It does. It does.
This is a tiny alien green man. Travis is showing me a picture of him snapping, smiling and snapping. He's adorable. He's got little antenna on his little green helmet. He kind of looks like he would be a crossing guard.
He does. Yeah, I like him. He's cute.
Oh, no, he's great. He's very cute.
Yeah.
He was banished from the planet Zitox or Zetox.
Yes, sir.
But also banished from the future. He comes from a future planet called Zetox as punishment for making a doomsday device.
Yeah, a weapon of mass destruction.
Yeah, a WMD on this motherfucker. And is that how we got rid of, is that actually what we did to Saddam? Is just send him back in time to another planet?
Right.
A doomsday device, and apparently just because he said everyone else has one. What is this character? So he's sent back in time to another planet, to prehistoric Earth. He is required to do good deeds for whoever finds him first, and guess who that is?
Fred
Flintstone, and Barney Rubble. Those two knuckleheads. He speaks in a he speaks like he's above everything.
Oh, yeah.
His attitude is absolutely above everything.
Quiet, I must concentrate. Now, dum-dums, you wish to speak to me? Any more questions, dum-dums?
Only those two can see him, and he is nigh omnipotent. He snaps, and reality changes.
Yep.
This is what they've dumped into their Stone Age sitcom.
Right.
His name, and we got to be careful, just to give a tiny piece of trivia here.
Okay.
His name comes from a song from the very early 1900s, 1909, 1911, that area. A ragtime song called King of the Bungaloos. If you can't tell by that title, it is a very problematic racist song that I think I'm only going to play the words.
One word.
Great Gazoo, because he says something about the Great Gazoo in it. For some reason, that's where they took it from.
Gotcha.
It was by a vaudeville singer named Gene Green.
It tells me I'm a the Great Gazoo.
And that's all we need from him. And season 6, the Great Gazoo season, maybe the best season of the Flintstones, for our purposes, certainly. That is the season from which we took the episode sample that we studied to understand the Flintstones.
Yes.
Season 6, episode 18, with a very art house sounding title, Two Men on a Dinosaur.
It is.
It sounds like a title of a painting, but then it's just squiggles and then a cutout of a magazine of a dinosaur. It originally aired February 4th, 1966, basically 55 years ago.
Right?
This is
crazy.
Nuts.
That is nuts.
It's wild, and I don't believe it. The main focus of this episode, their equivalent of the horse races.
Yeah.
Which means dinosaur races. So I guess if there's an animal or a machine, it's a dinosaur now.
Right.
And they have, like on the Flintstones, they have Dino, who is their pet, who doesn't talk and doesn't have any service jobs. That maybe he goes out and has shifts.
And is not trained by any stretch of the imagination.
A lot of the humor on the Flintstones is about how Fred hates how he hasn't trained his animals and they jump on him. And he gets really mad about it.
He does.
And
he does.
Guess what, buddy? You're in charge of that.
Train that thing.
Dino and the generic Flintstones dinosaur is a weird, smallish Brontosaurus style dinosaur, but it has hair. It has 3 hairs on top of its head.
Just a little tuft.
I mean, I guess dinosaurs, this is proof. Dinosaurs are a young man's game. It's always changing. I bet at the time they thought dinosaurs maybe have a few hairs.
Always changing.
Always changing. You can't keep up with it. I stopped trying to keep up with it. Yeah. I know when I'm licked. That's for a young man.
As soon as the brontosaurus wasn't a real thing, I was like, I'm out. Hands up. I'm walking backwards now. I've given up. I had put so much into the brontosaurus, I really had.
Well, they did seem to be the one, maybe. Here's your three basic dinos.
Yeah.
Stegosaurus, Tyrannosaurus Rex,
and
Brontosaurus. These are the three that and if you want to go a little bit further out, you have a water one, the Plesiosaurus, and more importantly, the pterodactyl.
Those are your pillars.
Yeah, you got your team of five. If I was going to assemble a Dinosaurs Avengers, that's them. All of a sudden, the Hulk doesn't exist.
Yeah.
He was never there.
That was a bit much.
He was an accidental skeleton. We shouldn't be trusting anything they did back then. So Fred and Barney are watching on television the dino races, which is their equivalent of the horse races.
Yep. Gambling, baby.
Gambling.
We're into smoking and gambling.
The names of the dinosaurs. I don't want to go through all of them.
Okay.
I just want to show everybody. I want to call out the writers on this show.
Yeah. Do it.
Okay.
Please.
Flying granite.
Mm-hmm.
Royal marble. Slippery slag.
Geology book.
Yeah.
It's covered in stains.
Quartz.
This is just, they can't help themselves, I guess. And they're being ridden by monkey jockeys. So mammals do exist, as well as dinosaurs. Has the Ice Age happened? Are there saber-toothed tigers? They also eat dinosaurs. Fred Flintstone orders a Bronto burger and
a fake burger, I guess.
Also, yeah, exactly.
Where are we?
That's the Impossible Burger.
Yeah, it is.
Is the Bronto burger.
You're right.
He also orders the spare. He says, "Don't spare the spare ribs." And they bring him a rib that is the size of his car. So he is eating the same things that also wash him and have enough sentience to address the camera. And he owns a dinosaur. Look. Fred is an early hominid, so he's an animal almost. I don't know why I'm holding him to a high standard like this. Have you ever bet on horses or even been to a horse race?
I've been to 2 horse races, only bet on a horse one time.
You got a 50% ratio rating going.
Yes.
Okay.
Didn't win, but I did.
Do you remember the name of the horse?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
It wasn't Rockosaurus or Stone Frisbee?
No.
Okay. I've never even been. There's 2 sides to horse races that seem to be presented to us in all pop culture.
White and white.
Oh, well, yeah. Both sides are undercooked for sure.
Yes.
The one side is like the face of it. Classy, big hat wearing, lemonade sipping side.
Fans.
Big hats.
The glasses on the stick, the little binoculars or whatever.
The straw with binoculars on it.
Fancy binoculars, yes.
White gloves, we'll say. Okay,
yes.
The white glove side of it. And then there's the side of jockeys crushed under hooves and bookies threatening to break your legs. That's the other version that we're always given. And so either side feels wrong to me.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Listen, I went for the 4th of July celebration at night. The fireworks. That's why I went.
Is that why you bet? Did you bet on fireworks?
No,
Travis?
I bet because I wanted to bet.
Yeah.
That's what I was doing.
Lost.
Everyone else was doing it.
You lost and you deserve to lose.
You're right. No, you're right.
Gazoo apparently, the great Gazoo, I'm sorry. He apparently agrees that you shouldn't have been betting. He says he's going to teach Fred and Barney a lesson. His job is to do good deeds while he's here. I guess he thinks that this is good, but he seems to just be taking offense that they want to bet on the horses, on the horse dinos.
Right.
Which is a pretty high and mighty stance to take on gambling when you created a doomsday device. That's why you're here. But he has the ability to predict the horse races, the winners every time.
To do everything, I guess.
Basically, I don't know why he doesn't send himself back. I don't know if that's in his power. I like that this is an alien power that he would just come and be like, oh, of course these horses are going to win. This is why we have aliens locked up in Area 51 is because the government is just using them to predict sporting events.
Right. Yeah, we have 2 aliens locked up in there.
But Fred and Barney say, we can now make some clams. And clams are literally the currency. I guess they're worth a lot because they're hard to get because the ocean is still very much their enemy at that stage in their development.
Literal
clams. Yeah, clams. They're not making scratch. They're making clams. As in, how many individual clams will you give me for this? Barney brings up the point. Wilma will never let you go to the racetrack.
Yeah, that's a thing.
Okay, this is where I had to almost stop the car. I did stop the cartoon for a moment after watching this exchange. Barney says,
Yeah, well, Wilma will never let you go to the racetrack.
Then Fred proceeds to lie to his wife and hide that he will be going to the racetrack to bet.
Yeah.
I gotta hand it to you, Fred. You did it. After all, I am the head of the house. You just said, I'm going to the races, and you walked out. Wrong. I said, we're going bowling, and walked out.
Just talk to your wife, man. Jesus Christ. You can work something out. Like, there's probably a reason she doesn't want you to go, and you have a right to say that you want to go. Just talk about it, but he doesn't. And in this moment, when he tells Wilma where he's going or what he's going to do, Wilma is mom, 100%. Fred is hiding his schemes from her end. What keeps happening on the show is that he talks about the Great Gazoo, and he has to keep making up reasons that someone would ever say that or why they're conspiring in the corner, talking to themselves. Yeah. She's been watching her husband slowly lose his mind.
Mental health,
for months now, and she just doesn't want to speak up about it. She's like, I can't deal with this. Maybe that's why she just lets it go. But the classic sitcom situation that is in front of us here, I had to stop and just vomit up a Freudian analysis of it.
Lay it on me.
It bothers me that this is just so written into our DNA as a culture. Because think of King of Queens. Like, that wasn't that long ago. And that was still the same format. I'm a slow-witted lug of a man-child. I'm sweet-natured with my boyishness, and that's what won the affections of my attractive wife. Secretly, I worry that she'll realize she can do better than me and leave me. So I resort to secrets and lies to hide my immature behavior because I'm ashamed of it. Luckily, she got into this whole thing because she kind of likes the power of being mommy to me and my shenanigans.
Trope.
So as long as I'm genuinely sorry at the end of the whole thing and we have this moment of semi-adult exchange of emotions or apologies, we can reconcile and the cycle continues. I will keep hiding things from my wife, treat her like she is both stupid and all-powerful over me, and the whole thing comes down to Fred is worried his wife will either leave him and go have sex with someone else cheat on him. It's all about emasculation, and that is all about, it's insane to me that this is what what the cartoon is.
Well diagnosed.
And now we take their vitamins. Our children are taking their vitamins.
To live longer.
10 million strong and counting. Barney's such a sub. Already to Fred. Because Fred, Barney brings up, but what about this guy? They have the relationship, also a classic sitcom relationship of whoever is loudest is smartest. And Fred just talks over Barney and says, we're going. Yeah. And Barney says, great, cool, let's do it, I'm in.
I'm inferior to you.
Fred and Barney do go to the track, and they win a lot.
Yes, they do.
They bring home many clams.
Many ocean clams.
And they're faced with their wives immediately upon arriving home, who have their arms folded and already are expecting some kind of bullshit from these two kids.
Money! There must be at least $100 here. Look, Wilma.
I'm looking. If your best friend has 100, then you have 100. Hand it over. You've been gambling, haven't you?
No!
Just total horse shit. And this scene might as well be Dennis the Menace and his mom. She's taking a slingshot. Trope time again. It's a shakedown. These ladies take their money. And despite being so against gambling, they immediately go shopping. Cave women be shopping. That's why they got to. This is established back in the BCs.
Women do the shopping.
That's how it was back in 1960 BC, I guess. And there's this weird scene where they cut to the wives at the department store. And they're walking out. They've bought a lot of shit. And they're walking out. And they both start crying from guilt for buying themselves things and not their husbands. And it's just it's as though they're just trying to say, those flighty dames, they can't handle it. It's so strange because it's like they decide out of nowhere that they might have been wrong for taking the money
after they bought.
But then they go back and buy stuff for the guys. But I'm just like, what is this? What's happening here?
Why did that have to be added? Yeah.
The real problem, aside from the marital sex war going on between these two couples,
that's hot.
Is that two guys were watching Barney and Fred very intently at the horse dyno tracks. One of them is named Stoney. And I immediately thought of Encino Man, but I couldn't get the name of the other guy. You got a bruiser with a tiny hat, and then a squirrely guy with a toothpick, which is a cartoon version of a cigarette. We've seen this.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You can't smoke. Well, I don't know. They could have smoked. Maybe by the 6th season you couldn't do that. They'd figured it out, and the reports were coming out, and Winston said, "Hey, don't you don't want us in your show anymore."
A few million had died at that point. Yeah.
This guy with the toothpick is leaning so hard he's almost horizontal, and that is how you know you're dealing with two gangsters.
So what's the friend's name, funny man?
Kazoo.
Kazoo? Sounds like a sneeze.
You know what happens to wise guys who tried to fool us?
They see how these guys keep winning, and they say they must have a system, and
they're rigging it. They're rigging it.
Exactly. So they follow Fred and Barney home, and they barge into the house.
Yep.
One of them has a gun that's essentially a wooden slingshot just with a barrel on it.
Yep.
It's like a rubber band gun, but he brandishes this gun in Fred's face.
Yes.
It's pretty harsh.
Home invasion.
They want to take these two guys to their boss, Big Ed. That is not the name of a crime boss to me.
Yeah, and they missed the opportunity for a good rock name.
Well, they said his name is Big Ed McRock.
Oh.
The McRock is like what they serve at the Stone Age McDonald's.
Right?
Yeah. It comes around once a year.
The Rockdonalds.
You heard the McRock's back?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Big Ed McRock. And just Big Ed is not like, I don't know. I guess the Sopranos hadn't been on the air yet. But these guys' accents and the way they treat their organized crime, it's just, they don't seem like gangsters to
childish,
me.
yeah.
And Big Ed is not a boss name. It is the name of someone who owns a diner or a mechanic's shop, a garage.
Yeah.
You know, it's not the Big Ed family.
Right, yeah.
And Ed lives in the suburbs. These two guys take Fred and Barney to Big Ed, who just lives in another house, possibly a few streets over.
Yeah.
Do you remember on The Sopranos when Polly Walnuts took a mope that was going to get killed over to Tony's house? No. You don't do that. That's stupid. That is bad. You keep him insulated. So these guys...
They're not playing it well.
No. I guess guns aren't enough. So Big Ed is all about chops. When they enter on this guy, Big Ed, who's the boss, he's just chopping stone tablets in half.
I find this exercise very useful. Know what I mean?
When Fred and Barney come in and he's basically threatening them into telling him how they're winning at horses, he chops a boulder until it's a sculpture of Fred.
How's this boulder to chop on, boss?
Yeah, fine.
That's a good likeness of the fat one, boss.
When things go south later, the entire gang is just using chops.
Yes.
They're all chops all the time.
Every chop.
It's like on GoldenEye on 64, the all slaps mode. They're stuck on all chops, all slaps mode all the time. And a good chop, that's difficult to pull off.
No, it is.
Without hurting yourself.
Oh, yeah, it's bad. It's not good for your hand.
Why did we ever decide that as a way of hitting? You were landing on your weakest finger.
I mean, I think a chop is only good if you're on the neck, on a soft tissue neck.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah,
I agree with that. Judo chop.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you have to say judo chop.
You have to fall firmly on a vein.
Fred and Barney give them the names of who Great Gazoo says is going to win. And they go off to the tracks, leaving Fred and Barney behind. We will deal with you later. We'll let you go once we get our money.
Once we win, yeah.
Well, here's a few problems. One, Great Gazoo gave them the wrong horses, so they lost, because Great Gazoo is still trying to teach a lesson. I don't know what the lesson is.
At this point, he's just
Don't
lost.
trust Great Gazoo.
Yeah, he's lost.
Yeah, don't ever deal with an alien. They fuck you over. But the other thing, look, you've seen their faces.
Yes.
You've heard their voices. You know their names. If gangsters leave you in essentially an improvised prison and say, we'll be back later.
Yeah.
You will be found in the East River.
Oh, yeah.
You've seen your family for the last time.
Yeah, you're not going to see your kids again. Not at all.
It's not like, oh, they're going to come back and they're just going to let me leave this. I've seen their house.
Yeah.
I've been to his address now.
And it's one house over from mine.
It really is.
Yeah.
Well, they come back and that is where it's going. They're going to get chopped all to hell.
Yes.
Except that Gazoo finally says, okay, they've learned their lesson. I guess the lesson is don't gamble. You will get chopped to death. So Gazoo starts pulling out the stops and causing these gangsters to chop themselves to death. I don't know. We don't see them die, but they knock themselves out.
Right.
And then Great Gazoo makes a call to the police, has them come pick up these chopped out gangsters.
With an imaginary rotary phone.
That is very funny, actually.
Yeah.
It's an improv rotary phone because you can't see it. He's just doing space work in front of you.
Space work.
He does a lot of space work. He's an alien.
He does. Ooh, baby.
he calls the cops.
Yep.
And that is how you stop gangsters. That's always how you do it. You put the mobsters in jail, and that solves everything. They never reach out and get to you through other people that they still have on the outside or just stew while they're in prison for years. They're known for forgetting and for not holding grudges. So you definitely should just send them to jail, and that solves everything. I think what Gazoo has done is set Fred and Barney up, because guess what? Gazoo goes home eventually. Not this episode, but eventually he is allowed to return home. And I bet at some point, years in the future, like an old graying Fred answers the door, and the guy says, "You remember Big Ed? This is for Big Ed." And then it's over. Yeah, slingshot through the stomach or whatever. Yeah, that, or he gets chopped.
And then he's poured into concrete somewhere.
Exactly.
Yep.
That is not the end of it, though.
No.
You still got to deal with this storyline of the wives who have
the cartoon beautiful beauty
who've lost their minds, it seems, because again they just suddenly have an extreme mood swing, which I don't think women just have. I think that's what maybe the writers were putting a little bit into the script,
juice into it.
I bet, man, you can just imagine guys who are writing scripts for the Flintstones were just like typing up, smoking Winston cigarettes.
Dude, eating cigarettes. They were just eating them.
Yes. Fred and Barney return home, and the only money that they have left is the $4 or whatever
shekels.
that they went there with in the first place. And the wives immediately ask for forgiveness.
How can I ever thank you, buddy?
By forgiving us for ever doubting you.
Please, Fred, say you'll forgive us.
Only if you'll forgive us for lying about going bowling. We went to the track and bet on the races.
Thank you for telling us. You're a dear.
You were right to doubt them. They absolutely were lying to you.
They're doofs.
They're Yabba-Dabba-Doofs.
Yep.
And you owe them nothing. You owe them no apology.
Need to cheat on them. No, I'm just kidding.
They should start threatening with that. Fred, I'm so bad. I'm starting to consider cheating.
I'm going to cheat on you.
They lied to you and you caught them. And now you're apologizing. And the guys, I got to say, they apologize too, but they apologize for lying. So I don't understand where they couldn't let the woman just accept an apology. It had to be that everybody's sorry.
Right.
It's so...
they had to get a fast moral lesson in there.
And what that is beats the hell out of me. Sadly, the Great Gazoo, the addition of the Great Gazoo, the omnipotent space alien, did not. I think they did that with, I think Mork from Mork and Mindy originally showed up on Happy Days. That's the birth of all shitty ideas for sitcoms, I guess, and good ones. They had a space alien show up and then spin off. Well, Great Gazoo didn't spin off, and he did not, sadly, save the Flintstones from cancellation in 1966. Obviously, they have stayed in our minds. They're in our blood. They're in every pore of us.
They still haunt us every day.
They are dead by now.
Yeah.
So they're probably haunting some archaeology site out there. If you hear Wilma or Yabba-Dabba-Doo, you know what you're dealing with. Not only did they have vitamins and many other products to keep shilling, but they kept showing up in cartoons, just not the original.
Correct. Yeah. They had a follow-up, 1971's Pebble and Bam Bam show.
With Pebbles and Bam Bam all grown up. That's what we all were asking for.
Right. We wanted it. Yeah, we asked for it. They delivered.
Yeah, and it's cool because the Flintstones show up. It is kind of like a Joni meets Chachi. That already happened on the show that came out before that. It's one of those things where it's like you wait, I don't know, watching Frasier, it's kind of cool to see some of the Cheers people show up. And so the Flintstones as a family still show up in the show, but it's not about them. It's about these teenage or slightly grown up versions. That's the thing that got me, because I remembered it as Pebbles and Bam Bam are just straight up grown up, because as a kid, when I saw this version of the show, one, they looked like adults to me. Two, Pebbles is drawn like a glamour model from the 70s. Like everybody else looks like a cartoon doofus.
Yep.
And she's drawn like with the long straight hair. And
these boots are made for walking.
Totally. And so that's, I guess, why I thought of it that way. But it was cute. I remember watching it. Cute. It was a little cute. Later in the 70s, mid to late 70s, educational films were the new game in town for the Flintstones. They don't care. They will put their names on anything.
Once again, we didn't ask for it, but they delivered.
I mean, and who else would you want telling you about energy, a national issue?
On a world scale, mankind may use as much energy in the next 25 years as he did in all recorded history, if the supplies are available.
What do you mean, if the supplies are available? Everybody knows there's more gas now than there ever was.
And I don't know if in 1977 or whatever, the only people that kids would listen to in 1977 are still the Flintstones. And this seems like a Hanna-Barbera nightmare because all of a sudden it's like your supposedly adult sitcom characters are now only good for making kids healthier through vitamins and through explaining to them serious issues of the day.
Well, the Flintstones kept telling people what to do. In 1988, they released the Flintstone Kids Just Say No special on ABC.
Including an appearance from the First Lady herself, Nancy Reagan. The only other person equipped to talk to today's youth in 1988.
Yep.
I don't know what your thoughts are on watching more Flintstones episodes. I think they could be fun, maybe. Gazoo, I think Gazoo all the way. That's the only way to watch the Flintstones.
Yeah, definitely.
But if nothing else, I think someday we will have to cover the Flintstone Kids Just Say No special featuring Nancy Reagan.
Please.
In a star turn.
Please.
Okay, it's agreed. The 90s saw some Flintstones activity.
Yes, they did.
I have memories of being in a movie theater and seeing the dad from Roseanne become Fred Flintstone.
And the dad from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
B. Barney. We're talking about John Goodman. We're talking about Ricky Moranis. Richard Moranis.
That's weird. I don't like that.
The Flintstones movie, 1994.
John Goodman, Rick Moranis, Elizabeth Perkins, Rosie O'Donnell, Kyle MacLachlan, Halle Berry, Jonathan Winters, the BC-52s, and Elizabeth Taylor. Steven Spielrock presents The Flintstones.
There was a CG Dino, and it looked like shit because it was 1994. And what are you going to do?
We didn't know that yet.
And the thing that I remember from it the most is Halle Berry playing Sharon Stone. Was her character's name. Sharon Stone was a working actor in her prime at that time, and this character, she was the sex pot character, climbing all over John Goodman, Fred Flintstone's desk, trying to flirt with him.
Sex pot.
Sex pot.
Good use.
Got to dip into that sex pot again.
Yeah, baby.
I'm about to run out. Before we wrap this up, I just want to point out that for all because Flintstones shit keeps flying. I mean, look, if you go to Target right now, you're going to see Flintstones cups. You're going to see Flintstones diapers and all kinds of shit.
It's out there. You can't run from it.
No, you can't. It's in the system now.
Yes.
The Flintstones are. So you're not getting rid of it. You're not flushing it out. The main thing that I'm concerned with, and I want everyone to be aware of, Flintstone vitamins are still on the shelf.
Yes.
They were 10 million Flintstone kids strong 30 years ago.
Oh, man.
That was 30 years ago. So if it's not an idle threat that they're 10 million strong and growing, I don't know what the expansion rate is, but we are probably dealing on a daily basis with a slew of Flintstone kids.
We need to start looking at this. You're right. You're right.
I don't know what they're after. I don't know what they want. I don't know what their value system is. All I know is that I don't take vitamins. I ain't one, and I don't trust these kids.
Some kid's just going to come in here and throw you around one day.
That's the threat.
Yeah.
These Flintstone kids have been genetically engineered to overtake us.
The threat is alive,
They will depose us. Yabba-Dabba, thank you for joining us today
You had to.
on the Days Past ToonCast and our coverage of the Flintstones. See you again someday, Fred, when there's drugs involved and someone's got to stop taking them, right?
Yes.
Yabba-Dabba, do us a favor and get on over to your podcast provider. Give us a 5-star review and write us a review. It helps put the podcast in front of faces.
And if you internet, make sure to go on Twitter and Instagram at DP ToonCast. Get on there. We post stuff. You'll like it.
You will like it.
You have to.
It's the Yabba-Dabba-Doo guarantee. All right, so as many of you probably know, Days Past ToonCast is a Texas-based operation, and we have had some very extreme weather conditions out here. So we're going to take a week off to catch up, and then the week after that, we're going to be celebrating a holiday. I don't know if you have it marked on your calendars, people, but you best step to doing that because we're going to be we have President's Day. That's already come and gone, and yet this is not a national holiday. Maybe it is in Japan. I don't know. We're going to be covering for Mario Day, Super Mario Brothers. That's a video game. I know, man, but it's also cartoons. Okay? Jesus, Mom.
Quit looking at me.
We're going to be talking about Super Mario Brothers in their animated form for March 10th Mar10. Mario Day.
Ooh, that's good, baby.
Yeah.
That's good.
So get into some pipes, get into some overalls, start looking at your plumbing, people. Until then, please tutor my duder.
Rock, 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 rock. Tutor my duder.
Hello and welcome to the Days Past ToonCast. My name is Will.
I'm Travis.
I'm sorry. That caught me off guard so much.
Switching it up.
I'm like a robot that suddenly can't function because you didn't say the right password.